What is up, YouTube? It's Malorn here, and I'm here with another wonderful video for you guys today. So currently we are on MMORPG.com. I found this article. It is called Wizard 101 10th Anniversary Interview with the Devs. Now it makes some interesting points, and there's some topics in it that I'd like to discuss. It is a very long article. Alright, so if you don't have time right now, but you do want to hear it, I definitely recommend maybe watching this video later, or if you don't mind reading it on your own, then you can just go to MMORPG and type that in and type Wizard 101, and then it's like the first article on the website for it. So this was by Vanessa Mythdust, and it was actually posted today. So I'm going to go ahead and read this, and we'll see where it goes. Well, it's not every day that you see an MMO turn 10 years old. Wizard 101's community made sure to celebrate the grand occasion by participating in in-game events, sending appreciation messages to King's Isle, and visiting their favorite professors in Ravenwood. In other words, September 2nd was certainly a busy day for the Spiral's wizards. With Wizard 101's Steam launch inching closer and closer, the Spiral is only expected to get even bigger. To gain some insight on this amazing milestone and see what's coming in the game's future, I caught up with senior creative designer of MMO content Leah Rubin and lead Wizard 101 creative designer Sam Johnson. King's Isle community members would better know Leah Rubin as Professor Falmea and Sam Johnson as Blind Mew. MMORPG. So it's kind of like a discussion. So I know this game is for everyone. It's a family-friendly game, but I also know a lot of younger people play it. I personally started playing back in high school, but many others probably started even before that. So how does it feel knowing that many people have actually grown alongside Wizard 101? Leah. I mean, that's the coolest thing. Our original demographic was 8 to 14, so somebody who was 8 years old when they started playing, they were in elementary school, and now they're going off to college. They've been with us for that long, and it's like they've grown up with us. It's just amazing. Sam Johnson. And for me, it's great. I think part of what makes Wizard so special is that, especially in the MMO space, there weren't that many people aiming towards younger kids. Before I got into the game industry at all, I was going to be an educator. I was going to teach social studies, and I got roped into writing fiction for an MMO. Why I personally try to weave things in. Like, if you look at Pirate, you'll see all the allusions we make to everything, and we're still doing it. I know if we get them young and get them to read one book they wouldn't have otherwise read, then my job is done. I love it. It's one of my favorite aspects of the game. MMORPG. Do you think player maturity over the years has impacted the game's content, such as darker themes and a darker narrative in the later worlds? Sam Johnson. That's really a good question. I know that, and again, I have a weird perspective on this because I've only recently joined Wizard 101 full-time. But I know that especially towards the end of the second arc, it did get a bit heavy. I was part of these discussions after Chrysalis, where we decided just flat out to take the game up a notch or two in terms of the content and make it a little lighter. That's why in Polaris and Mirage, we tried to go lighter than we did earlier. Although, seeing as how it's the end of the arc and the stakes are higher, there's still some tension in Empyrea Part 2. It's not Firecat Alley again. But I think to answer your question, I think it has had an effect. I know there was at least one point where we course corrected for a little bit because we were worried it was having too much of an effect. Leah. And we do recognize that the folks that end up getting to 100, 125 and are at the top end are probably not going to be our 5-year-olds or 7-year-olds. So we have made the story a little more complex at that point, out of knowledge that the folks who end up at those stories are going to be a little older probably. Sam. Oh, absolutely. And one thing that I don't ever want to do is dumb things down because we think, oh, kids are going to be reading this. You know, we make it appropriate, but I learned my vocabulary through reading comic books. I would run into words I didn't know, and I would find out what they meant. And so if we're doing that, then we're fulfilling our purpose there too. Leah. Absolutely. We'd never make content like, oh, well, we have to use the $2 word instead of the $10 word. So we always want to make sure that we're doing the most creative and interesting things that we can while being appropriate, of course. MMO. Going along with that, is it also a struggle to kind of balance the difficulty between the younger and older players? Leah. Yeah, well, we try to split it into two rails. On the main line, we try to make it something that everybody can at least eventually get through. Yeah, the end boss fights will be hard. There may be some challenges along the way, and we may have had some fights that ended up being a little harder than we expected, like Jabberwocky. But we want to make sure that for the vast majority of our players, they can get through the mainline story. Now, side content we may make a little harder, or a lot harder, and it may not be something that everybody can get through without trying a whole bunch. Sam. Yeah, I don't have much to say on that point. I leave all that to design, but absolutely, I don't want difficulty to shut people out of the story. MMO. So it was announced that Wizard 101 is coming to Steam, and it also recently got a makeover. Was that specifically planned around the 10th anniversary, or did it just happen to fall that way? Leah. We've been talking about a lot of these things for many, many years. While I'd like to say, oh, it's just a happy accident that it happened that way, we were doing everything we could to kind of plan that. Having the front end of the game look beautiful and wonderful and refreshed, it's a great thing when you're introducing it to a whole new audience like Steam. And we're very happy that it ended up working out that way. Sam. Yep, I think there's a reason Steam didn't happen back in February or whatever. So it lined up pretty well, but yeah, there was a lot of work behind the scenes. Leah. It's neat that it's coming to Steam right near the birthday. I think that's a fun coincidence. We didn't think it was going to be quite that close. MMO. Regarding the makeover, how did you go about updating everything but still keep that classic Wizard City essence that the players have come to know and love? Leah. Well, that was a huge deal to us. Even when we were initially just talking about it as an idea, the one thing I kept saying to people in meetings is, I want it to be like you're putting on a new pair of glasses for the first time. You have the correct prescription, and everything looks the same. But the trees actually have leaves now, and you can see the details. And everything just looks more vibrant and wonderful. I know there are some games out there that have done makeovers like this and they completely changed their iconic worlds, and I thought that was a mistake. We wanted to stay away from that, and we just wanted to make it like the Wizard City that everyone knows and loves, but just a little bit extra and looks a little bit better. Sam. And Art had been making worlds for 10 years. There are standards we have right now for the new stuff that we put out, and I think the goal was to take that stuff and just, if we were making Wizard City as our new world for Arc 4 and we had never heard of the place, what would it look like? And yeah, they spent a long time making sure, trying alternate configurations and things, making sure that it was still Wizard City even though it looked better. And the really cool part is that we've got some of the guys who built Wizard City the first time who are doing the facelift. So they know what they did and they know what they do now. So moving from one to the other, well, it was just a really cool process. Leah. The art team did such a fantastic job. The commons, we did that first as a test and it took months to get right. And I know that some of the artists were, at the end, getting a little frustrated with it. But they put in so much extra work and they did such a great job, I can't thank them enough for what they did. It came out to be the most wonderful, wonderful update. Sam Johnson. I've been making MMOs for 18 years, and this is hands down the best art team I've ever worked with. They put out great stuff, better than the stuff I asked for, and they can turn on a dime if they need to. And yeah, the fact that we have a world update and the Wizard City revamp in the same year tells you how good they are at producing what they need to produce, at producing when they need to produce. MMO. The game isn't the only thing that's changed. I think the community has too. In what ways have you seen the community evolve and grow over the 10 years? Well, I know 10 years ago, I don't know if Twitch was a thing, but I know not many people knew about it, if it existed. And now we just have so many people streaming on Twitch. That's kind of become the new MMO hangout. It's just hanging out on Twitch. And YouTube, again, I'm sure there was YouTube back when we launched, but it wasn't really a big thing. Now, we make sure that when we launch on test, we're like, is this going to look good on YouTube? When people put it up on YouTube and stream it. So there's just this huge community that's evolved around just hanging out and playing our games. I think that's so cool. Sam, being a relative newcomer to Wizard, I don't have much to say on that question. I mean, one thing you see, and I agree with Leah, it's not just here, it's everywhere. There's this new layer of meta commentary. It's practically community-based journalism almost. You know, like your website and everything. It's been really cool moving into Wizard full time and finding this community that is creating so much stuff. Leah, yeah, back in the day it was just the game and then the websites, and then Facebook evolved, and Twitter evolved, and Twitch, and all these new social platforms. There's just so many places where the community can connect with each other and we can connect with the community. It's awesome. MMO. Do you two have a specific favorite in-game memory? Leah. I mean, from a work perspective, I remember us launching Alpha for the first time. And it was kind of like we had this big field of snow. Seeing the first players and the first people in our community get in and start playing, it was like footprints on new fallen snow. It was so exciting to me. We had made this thing and we all thought it was fun, but it was the proving ground. It was time to test that. Will other people think it's fun? And I think they thought it was fun. MMO. Well, it's lasted 10 years. Leah, yeah, you know, that's a pretty good test of time. Sam, for me, being the new kid, I have a much narrower window to work with, but it was definitely when the update, Wizard City Makeover, went up, running around in there and watching players and watching them converse and watching them ride the merry-go-round. That was really cool. You could feel, you know, it was launch day again. I mean, every server update is that way to a little degree, but this was different. Leah, I mean, we always watch social media and go in game and watch what people are saying, but I think almost everybody on the team was feeling that. We're just like, what do they think? How's it going? MMO, is there a particular feature or idea that you worked on that you were most proud of? Sam, I would have to say the thing that I'm proudest of, and I can't take full credit for this at all. One of my writers who works for me is really the point guy on this, and it's thanks to his passion that it works. But basically the degree to which the designers have become able to create dramatic scenes without it being a full-on art-driven cinematic. We can have dialogue between characters, and we're playing with the camera and where it goes, like in Empyrea Part 1, the first introduction of Khan, when the camera does that move from the village up to where he is. That's the sort of thing that years ago would have been impossible, or we would have had to take an animator away from animating other characters and just have him do that. But now we've built in features so that the designers can be much more proactive in creating drama. And it's not just quest goals, the story is coming alive. Leah. I work with design fairly closely on a lot of the features and systems that go in, but jewel socketing was something that I had kind of come up with years before we put it in. I wrote up a design for it and worked really, really closely with design on that one, so I'll say that while there are probably some other things that I could think of, the socketing system was one of my favorites, just because I came up with the initial design of it. MMO. So, Empyrea Part 2. What can you tease about that? Leah. Well, you did see our character that we revealed on KI Live, right? MMO. I did. It was really cool looking. Leah. We're not saying who it is yet. She's an Empyrea warrior, and we mentioned previously that the Empyrea we had seen before were more studious. So she's different. We wondered what she could be up to. Sam. I will say that coming in, Empyrea in general was an interesting challenge from a writing standpoint because it's the end of the arc. And just because of the nature of these things, you know, every sequel has to be bigger than the previous one. So the stakes at the end of Mirage are very high. And we amp them up even higher at the end of Empyrea. At the end of Empyrea 1. And so it's like, okay, it's resolution time. How do we get from A to B, and where do we want B to be? The writers and other people got dragged up into that conversation too. We had a very interesting time making sure that we could wrap things up. MMO. Have you guys ever heard of Two Truths and a Lie? I was going to change that to Two Lies and the Truth if you guys were willing to do that. Two Lies and the Truth about Empyrea Part 2. I have not heard of that, and it sounds intriguing. I explain what it is, and Sam thinks really hard about his answer. Alright, you guys ready? Sam Johnson, in Empyrea Part 2. 1. You fight Old Cobb. 2. You fight Grandmother Raven. 3. You fight Merle Ambrose. Oh. MMO. Oh, you're good at this game. Leah. Yeah, they're all fairly implausible and plausible at the same time. Sam. Evil laugh. As I'm fond of saying to the pirate community, that would be telling. MMO. So I have one last question. What lies ahead for Wizard 101, even beyond Empyrea Part 2? Sam. Well, there's one thing I want to say straight up, because I read the forums and speculation and all that. The end of Empyrea Part 2 is not remotely the end of the story of Wizard 101. There will be a fourth arc. I have a few ideas in place for where I want it to go and what I want it to be about. I think my main thing that I've been challenging myself with and trying to come up with this stuff is basically the first two arcs, even the third arc, have all pretty much been about a big bad guy is going to do something that's going to destroy the spiral. So we spend a lot of time running around and learning what his plan is, and then we stop him at the end. Can we do an arc that is fundamentally different from that in structure? Leah, can we? Sam. Well, I'm hoping that we can. That's what I want to do. In terms of stakes and whatnot, I don't want to set a different tone, but I think we may take a break from fighting gods for a while. Leah. In terms of stuff that's not story arc, we're already sitting down to plan 2019. We're at the point where we're like, oh, okay, here are all of our ideas, and here are all of our ideas we want to do, and they don't all fit. So some of them are already pushed to 2020. And we definitely want to do beyond there. We're not stopping. There's no stopping here. We're full steam ahead. Sam Johnson. No pun intended. Leah laughs. Right. And we plan to have just as many cool things next year and the year after as we have in the years past. Wizard 101 wouldn't have gotten to its 10-year anniversary without its passionate community. Both Leah and Sam couldn't thank the community enough for everything that's led up to this incredible milestone. So way to go, Wizards, and happy birthday, Wizard 101. Okay, so that was a nice little read, and there's a few things, like I said, that I wanted to point out about in it. First things first. Alright, and I'm actually going to be going back to page 1 for this one. Scroll down a little bit. So right here, they actually, I think it's a little farther down, but basically it's right here. And we do recognize that the folks that end up getting to level 100 and 125, and you know that at the top of the game, they're probably not the 5-year-olds and the 7-year-olds. So I think this is really important. This is a really important thing to address. Alright, Wizard 101 is rated E10+, and you've seen, and I know that we've heard a lot of people complaining about things like difficulty and, you know, just kind of, like they mentioned, a lot of storylines and a lot of worlds are getting kind of dark. You have to realize that at these higher levels, and even apparently KI realizes this, they have a decent understanding of this, you have older players. So things are going to be more difficult, alright, because an older player can, you know, they have the patience, and I think they also kind of have the attention span to go into a really hard or a really long dungeon and go through it at least once, or enough to get the gear that they want. Alright, so you do need to kind of expect more difficulty in the game. And then the darker worlds, obviously, like they said, they tried to lighten it up with Polaris and Mirage. Polaris was light both in difficulty and just the general features that it had. Mirage, I liked Mirage. Mirage was actually one of my favorite worlds. It's number 2 on the list of all of my favorite worlds because it was light and feature. Alright, it was light and feature. It had that awesome Cabal storyline with it. Okay, and then it was difficult. It was challenging, right? It wasn't just something you could go into, snap your fingers, and it was done like Polaris. So there's that, and then they even mentioned the whole thing about like, hey, the vocabulary in this game, we don't dumb it down for people, and this was common even in Wizard City. I mean, if you go back to the storyline, they didn't use really, really big words, right? But you wouldn't expect a 5-year-old to immediately understand a lot of the things that were being said. And then even in the birthday quest, I'm not going to tell you what the word is, but if you go back on another one of your wizards that hasn't completed the quest, go talk to Merle Ambrose, and one of the words that he uses, I guarantee you, 50% of you are not going to know what that means. Alright, now we're going to go to page 2 for my next point that I need to address, and it is actually the one where they say that they have plans to continue the game, because I know a lot of people have been like, oh, Wizard 101's going to die, it's dying right now, people are quitting the game in droves, and, PvP is ruined, and crafting is getting too difficult, and the participation trophies have ruined crafting, and fishing is just a ridiculous feature that no one does, even though there's lots of people going out there trying to catch them, trying to go and catch them all, like it's Pokemon. Wizard 101 is not dying, it is, and people use the whole, KI laid off like 80 of their employees. People use that to kind of say, hey, KI is going to the dirt, Wizard 101's going to the dirt, right? But the only reason they laid off 80 of their employees is because, in this I am going to criticize them very heavily on, they keep putting a lot of focus into mobile games. They even just moved one of their community managers to their mobile game division. And I know that it was like his dream and stuff, like he's always wanted to be a mobile game designer, but their mobile games are crap. They're really, really bad and they almost never do well. I think the only one that did alright was freaking Grub Guardian, and that's only because it actually connected to the game. You could get stuff directly for Wizard 101, you could get prizes, you could level up your pet, that kind of stuff, and people liked that. You could get housing items that you couldn't get in game, and then you could be like, hey, I'm one of like 100 people in this entire game that has this specific wall painting, or this specific plant, So Grub Guardian did really, really well because of that. It was challenging and it was fun, and you could actually sit there for hours and play that. And then they came out with the one where you have the dinosaur things and you're running over towers and stuff. And I enjoyed that for about a week, and then I got bored. After that, they released the one it was like some weird crap about cats. And this, it was like Alpha Cat or something like that. And this was right around the time that they laid off 80 of their employees, because they released 2 mobile games that did not do well at all. They didn't make the company any money because you didn't have to pay, right? And no one was going to buy microtransactions for those games, even if they were there. I don't even remember if they had microtransactions in those, but no one was going to do that. Alright, and then they were terrible games. You'd play them for a week, maybe, they'd be fun for a little while, right? And they got repetitive. Okay. But they did mention that they are going to continue with the 4th arc, and then it says right here is not remotely at the end of the story of Wizard 101. So I think that means it could even go beyond the 4th arc. Now, the other point, there's actually 2 more. The next point that I want to address is the fact that Empyrea is actually the last world of the 3rd arc. Because if you remember what Old Cobb said in regards to where he's sending his children, there were 5 locations that were mentioned, but we only have 3 worlds. We have Polaris, we have Mirage, and then we have Empyrea. There's only 3 worlds in this arc, which it's not a bad thing. It's just a really short arc, But two of the worlds were really, really long. Mirage was basically an Azteca, and Empyrea is obviously going to be another Chrysalis in regards to world length and just how long it takes to complete it. You're not going to be able to complete Chrysalis in a day, and you definitely won't be able to complete Empyrea in a day. It took me a full 24 hours to complete Mirage in a day. That was 24 hours of straight questing. Alright, Mirage is nowhere near as long as Chrysalis even is. So there's all of that, and then right here it says in the Empyrea Part 2 you fight Old Cobb, Raven, or Merle Ambrose. I'm going to go ahead and put my opinion in here. I'm going to try and guess which one we're going to fight. We've already fought Old Cobb. Alright. We've already had that battle. It was kind of anticlimactic, but at the same time, that fight kind of led to another introduction. And we were introduced to the, what was it, like the spirit realm or something. And we saw Grandmother Raven talking to her dead daughter, or like half-dead daughter. She was saying your time's not over, you know, and then she saw us, and you know, she was like, okay, well, you're not supposed to be here, and she was talking about how she's going to end the spiral to stop Old Cobb, right? So I don't think Old Cobb is the enemy anymore. I think Grandmother Raven is going to be our enemy, and is who we're going to fight in Empyrea Part 2. Could be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure about this one. Alright, because it would be stupid if we just fought Old Cobb again for no reason. Like, why? Why would we do that? Alright, there's no point in doing that. I think another reason that I think we're gonna fight Grandmother Raven is just it's got to do with her plan. You know, she's gonna destroy the spiral, because if she does that, then you know the only thing holding the spiral together is Old Cobb's heart, right? If she destroys Old Cobb's heart, or she kills Old Cobb, the spiral, it's gone. You know, so obviously, you know, she could just lock Old Cobb back up, but then that runs the risk of him escaping again. And Shadow's already been released into the world. Our wizard has shadow magic. You know, obviously a lot of creatures have shadow magic, and they've got all the shadow creatures running around. There's no guarantee that locking Old Cobb back up would bring all of the shadow magic with him, right? You can't guarantee that. So Grandmother Raven kind of wants to go for the just completely restart everything, you know, see how it goes, I guess. And just her plan is just she's kind of a martyr right now, I guess. I'm not sure if I'm using the right word there, but she really, really believes in what she's doing. She really believes that this is the only way to go about it. It's just to destroy everything instead of locking him up, and you know, maybe a new legend will be born that can fight him off again if he escapes again, like we did, you know. But it's very, very clear to me that Old Cobb wasn't anywhere near as powerful or as dangerous as he was made out to be. The only reason that he's really an issue is because we can't kill him. We can't, you know, we can't destroy his heart because that destroys the spiral. We can't kill him because his heart wouldn't. You see the problem there? The whole thing goes boom if you destroy Old Cobb. That's the only reason he's any kind of a threat. Grandmother Raven could just easily pick him up and maybe fight him a little bit, right? But if we can beat him, Grandmother Raven can probably beat him. She did it before. Just lock him back into the little hole, or lock him into another hole, put even more warding around it, you know. And I'm sure that there's a way that you can, like, I mean, come on, we're talking about ancient beings in the spiral. Surely they have a way to diminish magic so that, like, a creature can't use it. Because these are supposed to be creatures, gods, from the previous spiral, before the spiral was created. And then, let's see, we also have, it says, can we do an arc that is fundamentally different from that in structure? So we spend a lot of time running around learning, evil genius, evil master plan, take over the world or destroy the world, that kind of a thing. And he wants to change that so that it's not the same thing. Not the same thing it's been for the last 10 years. I think this is a really good idea because it has been the same thing, but I'm just wondering how it'll work out. Because if you do this wrong, it's just going to be a series of side worlds lined up side by side by side by side. Right? There's not going to be any connection between the worlds, so there's not going to be any arc. One way I think they could do it, and I don't know if they're going to finish this specific storyline in Empyrea, or if it will continue. If it continues, they can use it. The Cabal. The Cabal can be if they don't finish it, if we don't take the Cabal down in Empyrea, then that can be part of the part 4. Because it's not really a bad guy, per se. It's not really a god or just one individual bad guy that's going out. It's like a whole secret organization throughout the spiral, and they've got links to the Arcanum, and they've got all this mysterious magic and stuff, and they know some of the Arcanum secrets, and they have ways of obviously destroying the Arcanum. They're the Arcanum's greatest enemy, so I think that would be a good way to go. Anyways, guys, that's all for this video. 30 minutes in. I hope you guys enjoyed, and peace out.